Hello, welcome to the first ever Biffsugar podcast. My name is Alison and I'm coming to you from the south of England. This podcast is going to be about knitting and crochet and perhaps a bit of spinning, but more of that a bit later. I am new to knitting. I started about a year ago. I learnt initially as a child when I was about 6. My mum taught me to cast on and cast off and knit and purl. And I tried to make a scarf. It was the 1970s and one of my favourite shows was Doctor Who. My Doctor Who was Tom Baker with the big, amazing coloured scarf. And I wanted to knit one of those, so I would knit and it was terrible and it had holes in it and I would increase stitches and drop stitches and I didn't know what I was doing. But I loved knitting it, and I loved when you would change colour and you had that row in the garter stitch where you had the two colours in the one row. That was my favourite part of it. And I never ever finished a scarf. And this went on for years. I would just knit it and unpick it and knit it and unpick it. And now I look back, I think, well, I was obviously just enjoying the process of knitting. It wasn't about creating something. It was just the knitting that was enjoyable to me. But I remember sort of in my early teens, I mean, this went on and off for years. I'd pick up knitting and put it down and pick up knitting and put it down. But I'd never get any further than a scarf because although my mum taught me the basic stitches, she herself is not a knitter, so we didn't have any knitting patterns or anything like that in the house. So I remember when I was in my early teens and my dad said to me one day, "Are you ever gonna finish something? You're always unpicking your knitting." And I never ever did until last year. My Dad passed away at the end of 2016, and at the beginning of 2017, for some reason, I don't know why, I started to come across all the podcasts on YouTube and all the lovely knitters and crocheters out there showing their work. And I watched a podcast called Joey's Scarf. Hello, Linda, if you're watching. And they were doing a knit along to knit something in memory of a loved one. And so I decided this was the moment I was going to knit that scarf. I was going to knit it in memory of my dad, and I was going to finish it no matter what happened. It didn't matter how many holes it had in it, I was going to finish it. So I did. And yeah, that was my first ever finished item. And I credit Linda of Joey's Scarf fully with being my knitting fairy godmother. She got me started, and then since then I've just gone on from there. I'm not a prolific knitter. I would say I was still a beginner knitter. I have a lot to learn, but I'm loving it, and I'm loving being on Ravelry. And yeah, I've got lots of things that are my favourites in my queue that I'm waiting to start. But yeah, I think crochet I've done for longer. I learnt crochet when I was about 10 and some friends of mine taught me. And crochet I just find it easier. To me, crochet speaks to me in a language that I understand, whereas knitting I still find confusing sometimes. It doesn't reveal itself to me initially. And at the beginning I found that really frustrating, but now, sometimes, not always, but I'm beginning to enjoy the challenge of it. So I'm going to start by showing you some things that I'm working on. As it's my first podcast, I don't have a finished object as such, but I have a half finished object, so a hoe, which is this mitten. This is the Simple Autumn Mitten, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. And it's made out of Malabrigo Arroyo. I don't know what the colourway is, but I initially bought this yarn to make a hat for my husband. I made him a violet waffles hat and it looks beautiful, and I had some yarn left and I just think it's so amazing, the colours in it. And I had a bit left and I thought I wanted to make these mittens, and I hadn't ever done any lace pattern, so I thought I would give it a go, and I was so amazed by how it came out. It is a bit snug, I will say that, but it does say that generally on the pattern that it is a bit snug. I haven't blocked it, so that might help, but it is a bit tight. But I did also amend it, which amazed me that I could even do that, because people go, oh, and I amended this pattern, and I think, how do you do that? But what happened was I knit it and I felt that the thumb was starting too low down, so I unravelled it, and normally the thumb starts at the same time as the lace pattern, so it starts down here, but I unravelled it and I did one lace pattern first and then I started the thumb. So I've amended a pattern, so I felt really a bit chuffed with myself over that. Sounded like a professional knitter when I did that. So that's the first one, and I am cracking on with the second one. I'm just at the point where I need to put the thumb stitches onto waste yarn, so that's coming along nicely. It's really easy. I mean, if you'd have told me that I could make a mitten a year ago, I'd have never believed you. So to me, this is astounding. This is a major achievement for me. So yeah, I'm chuffed to bits with that. The next thing I've got on my needles at the moment is a sock. And again, socks were a challenge for me. They were something I wanted to knit, and I tried them and I unpicked them and I tried them and unpicked them and spent all last year. My goal for last year was to knit a sock, well, a pair of socks, and by the end of the year I still haven't quite achieved it, but I managed to finish a pair in January this year. And so there's still something that I think I struggle with a little bit, but I want to conquer them. I think I want to keep going with it. So I've decided I'm going to try and keep a pair of socks on my needles at all times this year if possible, just to keep me ticking over with it. I'm not interested at the moment in doing anything overly exciting with them. I'm just interested in a vanilla sock. So this one I'm knitting, it's just a plain vanilla sock, and I've tried the whole afterthought heel idea and it didn't fit me very comfortably, so I'm just doing the heel flap and gusset heel, which I find more comfortable, so I'm just gonna stick with it. And this yarn is really beautiful actually. I dyed this yarn last year. It's 100% BFL. It doesn't have any nylon in it, but I think it'll be okay. It's from a sock for my husband. He loves brown. He loves brown. I dyed up this yarn and I wanted it to look different than it did, and I wasn't too pleased with it, but then I balled it up and I thought, oh, it looks quite good actually. And then now I started knitting it, I do think it's come out really beautifully. It's almost got a little stripe going through it, which is really lovely to see, and you know, it keeps it interesting. So yeah, so I'm knitting their magic loop, and I'm just going to keep on plodding along with the socks and see what happens with them basically. Maybe by the end of the year I might get on to doing a lace sock or a different kind of pattern or whatever. Oh, and I must tell you, that sock is living in a very special project bag that was made for me by my son at school. And this is all batik, and then on the back it's all tie-dyed, and it was meant to be, they made them as cushion covers, but as soon as he brought it home I said, oh, are you planning on using that, because I could really use that as a project bag. So he was pleased that I wanted it. It's lost a couple of sequins, but I've got one of the sequins and I need to sew that back on. And also when he brought it home, it was Christmas, and I said, oh, it's like a Christmas tree. It wasn't meant to be a Christmas tree, but it just suited it entirely, and this was like the little star on the top of the tree. So I love that bag. That's my little sock bag. So one of my challenges to move on in my knitting is to try and knit a garment. I'd love to knit a jumper. So my son volunteered to let me knit him a jumper because he's a lot smaller than me. He is 13, so it was going to be a lot less stitches to knit him a jumper than it was to knit me one. So I have started to make the flax sweater, which I'm sure lots of people use as their first sweater. I know it's sort of billed as being, you know, an easy starter sweater. So I've started to knit it. I'm not doing the flax light, I'm doing the heavier weight one, the Aran weight one, because I figured, again, less stitches, which is better for everyone. And this is how far I've got. So I'm just about to split for the sleeves. I've got the garter stitch detail on the sleeve there and on the other side. And so far, I mean, I've amazed myself that I've got this far with it. I can't promise myself or you or anyone that this will one day be a fully fledged jumper. He has tried it on, and so far it fits him a treat, but we've a long way to go. So yeah, I mean, it just, as I say with knitting doesn't speak to me in a language that I understand. So because this is my first sweater, I'm unsure of sweater construction. I don't really understand how it works. I can begin to see now how this is working, and I'm beginning to get it more as I do it. But to me, knitting is kind of like magic, because the fact that you could take just some bits of coloured string and two little shiny sticks, and then you can make a jumper out of it, that just blows me away. So whether this will ever be finished, I'm hoping it will. I'm just going to plod along on it. The other thing is, it's sort of surprised me how long it takes. Like, even though this is a little jumper and it's an Aran weight jumper, I'm not making huge progress on it. But at the same time, I just think I want to enjoy it. I want to, yeah, just slow down and not rush it, not be worried about a deadline. If it, you know, it might be 16 by the time this is finished. It'd be enormous and it won't fit in. But I am enjoying knitting on it, and I just want to do a little bit every day. So that's my goal, just to, even if it's a couple of rows every day, that's fine. I just want to plod along. I'm not going to rush, because this is my first sweater. I want to see if I can get it right. And the yarn is just, it's really kind of cheap yarn. It is predominantly acrylic. It is King Cole Fashion Aran Combo. That's probably coming out backwards, isn't it? But it's 30% wool and 70% acrylic. But that's okay, because I needed something cheap and cheerful. I needed something soft, not itchy, because he was never going to wear an itchy jumper. And I just wanted something I wasn't going to feel too precious about if it didn't work out, if it didn't come to anything, if, you know, I messed the whole thing up. It wouldn't matter too much. I wouldn't feel like I'd spent £100 on some special wool. I'll save that for me when I make a jumper, if I ever get around to that. So yeah, but I am enjoying, although it's like a cheapy wool, and in the skein, it doesn't look too thrilling. There wasn't an awful lot of choice, I have to say. And when I brought it home, I have to say it wasn't too tough with it either. But I love the way it's knitting up. I love that effect. I love that mould effect on it. And I think it does kind of look rustic and chunky and adorable. And it is soft and it is squidgy. So it might only have 30% wool in it and a ton of acrylic. But I am actually pleased with the way it looks. So yeah, so that's my jumper. So that is all I've got on my needles at the moment. I have got a lot of things that I want to cast on, as we all do. I found that when I have a lot of things on my needles, I tend to feel a bit overwhelmed with life, and I like to kind of have one project that is my main project, my predominant item, and then some others just ticking away in the background. But I do have things that I want to make, and I'll get onto that a little bit more, because one of the things that I did last week was I went to Unravel festival, and I went with my daughter, and we had the most fabulous day. And I wanted to go last year to Unravel, but I was very new to knitting, didn't really understand it all yet, and I felt like if I went, I'd probably be overwhelmed by everything there and wouldn't know what to buy, and might come back and have bought the wrong thing or have wasted money on things I didn't understand. And I think that was the right decision, although I was sad that I didn't go, but I think it was the right decision. But this year I was ready to go, and me and my daughter went. We went on the Friday. It was beautifully sunny. It was half term, so she wasn't in school. And we drove there. We got lost. No, we didn't get lost, but we went I printed off some instructions to get there, and it took us some crazy way. And so when we arrived in Farnham, and we eventually got parked, because we couldn't park at the Maltings where the festival is, because it was absolutely chock-a-block. Even though we got there really early, it opened at 11 on the Friday, and we were there by 10:15. The car park was chock, there were already people queuing. I'm guessing this is probably normal for yarn festivals, but as it was my first one, I didn't know that. So yeah, we eventually got parked, and I thought, well, we're never going to get home, because I can't remember how we got here, because we'd been through some really strange places. So I thought, well, we're going to have to live here. I'm probably just going to have to buy some kind of luxury apartment and stay here for the rest of our lives, which is fine, because Farnham is a beautiful place, so I wasn't too worried about that. So we went to the festival, and it was so exciting. Oh, it was really amazing. And I know I've got nothing to compare it to, but I think even if I did, I would still have thought it was fantastic. And I did have a plan before I went. I decided I needed a plan, because I'm not a good shopper. I don't enjoy shopping. I'm not a big consumer. I like to be focused. I like to know what I'm getting. So I did have a plan. And we spent the first little while just walking around. We did a loop of the whole place, and we walked around and we looked at everything first. And then I came back at the end, and I kind of narrowed down what I wanted to get, and I got it. So the first thing I decided to get was these two skeins from John Arbon. I think you're seeing that backwards, but this is Knit by Numbers DK. And this grey one is KBN06, and the bluey one is KBN96. And I had a purpose for buying these. First of all, these are beautifully soft and squidgy. They are 100% pure Falklands merino wool, organically farmed, and they feel gorgeous. Their stall was amazing. They have every colour you could possibly wish for and more besides. But there was a reason for getting these, which was that last year I had bought this skein, which is a Hedgehog Fibres merino DK. It's this glorious, it's coming up a bit more navy blue, but in real life it's this glorious teal blue, and it sort of glows from within. It's so beautiful. And I bought it because I love teal. It's my favourite colour, and I thought, what do I do with it? Do I make a hat? Which would be, let's do it. Let's do the hat thing. It would be amazing as a hat, probably a cabled hat or something like that. It would be beautiful. But then I decided I wanted to make a shawl. I'm a huge shawl lover, and I have got a couple of knitted shawls, and they are fingering weight, and they're lovely, but I felt like I wanted a heavier weight shawl. Now the weather's getting warmer, I thought I'd knit a heavyweight shawl. So I decided to do a DK shawl, and I want to make the quill shawl by Helen Stewart, and I wanted something to go with this, and I looked on Ravelry at everybody's amazing versions of the quill shawl, and there are some beautiful colourways, and I decided that these were the colours that I would like. I'm not sure which combination I'm going to do it in yet, but these really just speak to me right now, so that's a future cast on. Hopefully very shortly, very soon, I want to cast that on. So that was my first purchase. I also bought, well, my daughter chose some sock yarn. She would like some slightly rainbowy, brightly coloured socks, and then she saw the sparkle base, and that was the one she wanted. So we chose that. I'm not entirely, it's an opal. I don't know what the colourway is. Opal Funny, it's called, which I haven't heard of. I'm not sure whether that's the colourway or what, but yeah, they're what she wants. So as soon as I've finished my husband's socks, I'm going to cast on her socks, and she can have a pair of sparkly, crazy coloured socks. So she chose that, so that was good. Then I decided that I was allowed to get 2 kind of wildcard skeins. So I was going to go and get something that I just fancied on the day. I was going to go to 2 stands in particular, which I did in fact go to. One was Fine Fish, I really wanted to visit their stall, and the other was Skein Queen. And they were quite near to each other actually. They were upstairs, and they were in the same room, and I did manage to get a beautiful skein from each one. So the first one was Fine Fish. Oh, look at that. Look at that lovely thing. Instead of me getting nearer, maybe I should put the skein nearer. That would be better, wouldn't it? So this is her core sock base. It's 75/25 superwash merino, and it's her Gawain colourway. And I just think that is amazing. I think it's a beautiful neutral. And, you know, I think it would go with lots of things. I mean, this is DK, so it's a different weight, but just as a colour match up, it would go lovely with grey. It would probably go nice with blue. There's so many options for that. So yeah, I love that. I don't know why I'm getting nearest the camera instead of the skein. But yeah. So I was so pleased with that one, so pleased. And my other skein was Skein Queen. Now I have unravelled this and reskeined it quite badly, but look at this beauty. This is Rosewater Ochre, and it's their 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and this is, again, beautiful. I have no set plans for either of these skeins, so I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but that's fine. I did plan to do that, to just let myself go a little bit crazy and have a couple of things that I really wanted. So yeah, those were my two wildcard purchases. The other thing I got was, I decided to be a bit sensible and I bought myself a swatch gauge, which is from Ainsworth and Prynne, and it's beautiful, very simple but functional, just as I like it, and it has the added advantage of having the needle gauge on the bottom. I haven't used this yet. I perhaps should have swatched for my son's jumper and been sensible, but I didn't do that. So this hopefully will come into play at some point when I decide to become a sensible knitter and swatch for things like proper sensible knitters do. But I haven't visited that place yet, so that is still to come. And the last thing, no, not the last thing, the next to last thing I bought was, and I have got some of these on my jumper, it's these little stitch markers. And they are from Katrinkles, and they are these little tiny jumpers. Oh, stop wobbling. Little tiny jumpers, and I thought they'd be so sweet for using on my jumper, which I am doing. And they were from this stall. I think everything's backwards, I don't know how I fixed that, but it's Ida's House, and she had a very nice stall, and she had lots of lovely stitch markers and beautiful notions and things. So that was that. Then there was one more thing that before I went, I thought I might treat myself to one of those baskets. I don't know the name of the company, but I think they go regularly to Unravel, and they have those gorgeous woven brightly coloured baskets, and I thought, oh, I might get one. So we went to that stall and we had, you know, on our first route round, and we had a look at them, and I thought, oh yeah, they're beautiful. And then as part of our first look round, we'd come across the Spin City stall, which probably a lot of you are familiar with. I'd never seen the Spin City stall before, and I decided in the end to buy a drop spindle and do some spinning. Now, this has never occurred to me before to do this. I've seen people do it, I know people talk about it on their podcast, and I thought, oh, what, you know, where's the fun in that? I just didn't get it. Clearly I didn't get it, because clearly I'd never visited the Spin City stall before, which to me was the most exciting stall at Unravel. It was so sparkly and brightly coloured and shiny, and it just drew you in, and it was just fabulous. So let me show you what I got from there. I bought a beautiful spindle, a drop spindle. Now, this is just one of many I could have bought. They had so many beautiful ones. It was really hard to choose. And so my daughter and I, we went through them all, and I picked up a few and she picked up a few. And then oh, there's the phone ringing. Hang on. My daughter and I picked up just ones that we liked each separately. And then we came back together and we went through them all, and we gradually discarded one after the other, which was hard, until we came down to this one. And I could have loved any of them, to be honest, but this was the one we got. And then we bought some fluff. Now I don't know what you call this, it might be roving, but it's beautiful, and it reminds me, because it's sparkly, it reminds me of the golden fleece in Jason and the Argonauts. The colour isn't coming up as vibrant as it is in real life. It's amazing, and yeah, I think of it as my golden fleece. And I don't know if I'm doing it right. I've watched about half a video on YouTube of how to drop spindle, and now I'm just doing it. So I'm pulling bits off and I'm giving it a whirl, and I've done this. And I'm thrilled to bits with it. I know it's all higgledy-piggledy, but I also watched a video that said that's okay, because it'll be thick and thin, and that's fine. And we call that art yarn, which I like. And they said when you get really good at spinning and you can only spin one width of yarn, you'll look back and you'll think, oh, I miss my art yarn. So this is my art yarn. And I'm guessing that what I do with it is that I have to then spin another batch of this and then ply it. I guess that's what I do. I don't know. If anybody knows, please let me know. But I do want to use it. I would love to incorporate this into a shawl or a cowl or something like that, because I really love it, and I love the unevenness of it, and I love the craziness of it. That's what I like. I don't want it to be even and beautiful and perfect. I love its craziness, and I'm just enjoying doing it. It's very therapeutic. I never thought I would find it relaxing or interesting, but yeah, so who knew that I would come away. I had no intention of buying this, but I bought it instead of the basket. I'm really pleased that I did, because the basket probably just would have sat on the shelf looking beautiful and housing my yarn. But this is actually something I can do, and it's a new skill. So I'm pleased that I bought that. So that's really exciting. So something else very exciting happened this week, which was Lane magazine came out, and I had ordered a copy. I don't know if it is Lane. Obviously it's Lane to us. We would pronounce that Lane. But I don't know if it's Liner or something entirely different. But whatever it is called, it's beautiful. And this is the first time I've ever had this magazine. I did have a look on the Yarn Story booth at Unravel, and they had Lane magazine, and that's who I'd ordered my copy from, but it wasn't this one. This one hadn't come out. This arrived the other day. So I've had a look through it, and it's just a beautiful thing to read, to hold, to look at, to possess. It's beautiful, but it, on top of which it does have some beautiful things. I mean, this jumper is just perfection for me. I think that's gorgeous. If I could make that, I would be thrilled to bits with myself, because I think it's stunning. And I also think that hat is amazing. And there's another sweater, and there's a shawl. There's a shawl. There's the shawl. Beautiful. And there is another sweater. Let me see if I can find. I mean, to be honest, you wouldn't be upset with any of these patterns if you could make them. You would think they were all stunning. But yeah, I definitely would love to make that sweater. And so I'm not going to say I definitely am, but I would love to try. This is the other one that I love. Look at that. How pretty is that? The colour, it's like that gorgeous pale pink, and it's really pretty. So yeah, I was very excited. It made me feel like a better person for owning it. It feels, you know, it's just like something good and nice quality, and the sound of it smells amazing. Just everything. It's very tactile and beautiful, and I feel very proud to own it. I've just seen something else that I bought at Unravel. Because I've bought so many things, and I had taken a bag with me, but they had their own bag with their own 10th anniversary design on it. So I bought that as well. And these, I noticed on my Instagram that these are available still for sale. I think if you go on the Unravel website, you can probably find out how to get them on there. I also didn't tell you at the beginning that I am on Instagram as Biffsugar Yarns, and I'm also on Ravelry as Biffsugar. And talking of yarns, one of the things I didn't say at the beginning is I am also a yarn dyer. I started to dye yarn last year. I started with my daughter. We bought some Kool-Aid, as most people start off dyeing that way, and we had a lot of fun. And then I decided to buy some acid dyes, and I bought some BFL. That was some BFL that I dyed my husband's sock, and I dyed up a few colourways in that, and I just really enjoyed it, and I wanted to buy more yarn, and I wanted to keep dyeing, and I've had so much fun with it, to the point where I now have an Etsy shop, which is Biffsugar Yarns on Etsy. And so I'm just going to go through a few things that I'm going to be putting in the shop in the next few days. If you don't want to watch that, that's fine. Thank you for stopping by, and I'm hoping to do another one of these in a couple of weeks. So it'd be lovely if you could join me then for that. But if you'd like to stay, that's lovely. And I'm just going to go through a few colours that are going up into the shop. So these are all, currently these are all merino nylon. I've also got merino cashmere nylon base in there as well, and I have some DK, but these that I'm going to show you are all merino nylon sock yarn, fingering weight. So this is the first one. This is called Lestrange, and it's a gorgeous, moody, grey, tealy, purpley, burgundy delight. That's beautiful. It's coming up pretty good actually on there. Lestrange, named after the lovely Bellatrix, or the not so lovely Bellatrix actually, is she? This next one is Wildflower Meadow, and it's green, it's not black. I don't know what it's shown up with to you, but it's shades of green with flashes of bright pinks and oranges and reds and yellows, like a wildflower, inspired by a beautiful photograph I saw of a wildflower meadow. Highly speckled, beautiful. This is Drama Queen, and it is heavy on the pink, and there's some grey and a little bit of red and yellow. Pretty, pretty, pretty. This is, not that one, this one. This is Club Tropicana. This is not coming out quite as vibrant as it is. You can probably imagine what it's like in real life. It's quite a pop of that kind of violety, pinky purple with oranges and speckles. It's really fun and pretty. This one is Lowther, and it's a beautiful, rich, tonal green, and it's stunning. I really love it. Really love the way that came out. Let me bring these over here. This one is Rosebud. I have had this in the shop before and it's quite popular. It's a beautiful kind of tonal, pinky, plummy burgundy colour. Really, like just one of those really useful colours I think that you can have in your stash. This is Be Mine, and it's a bit more sort of pastel-y than it looks there. It's got sort of greys and pinks and purples. It's a bit like a rainbow but with some grey in there as well. And this is Miss Havisham. I love this. Dyed this week. It's a new one, and I just think that's beautiful. I could see that in a cardigan or a sweater, and I just think it makes, although it's speckled, it's kind of a beautiful neutral. I really love that in something. And then lastly, this one, which is beautiful, pretty, so pretty. It's called Easter Bonnet. My daughter named it. I think it's the perfect name. It's just such a pretty pink with lots and lots of pretty speckles of yellow and pinks and purples and greens and everything going on, but it's a pretty pink. It's not gaudy or, you know, it's beautiful. So yeah, so those will be going up in the shop maybe later today or tomorrow, so take a look if you're interested. If not, I will hopefully see you again in a couple of weeks' time when I might have more knitting for you. Thank you for taking the time to sit with me today, and have a lovely knitty time with all your makes, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Bye.